Okay.
Yeah. Now, all right, you're back again. Perfect. Okay. All right. So I think we're all set. Okay, Reptile. I'll hang in here for a little bit to make sure everything runs. Okay.
Okay. Good morning. I wish I could be there with you. Welcome to our multi-platform space at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami, or as we affectionately call it, UU Miami. As a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, or the UUA, we bring a liberal religious voice to the great city of Miami. I am Reverend Tom Capo, the minister here. Although I'm not there in person, I am live with you. The reason I can't be with you is my back gave out and it's hard for me to get around. And so I'm here virtually. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm a white male. I'm wearing a light blue stole and a white shirt with flowers on it, blue flowers on it. Up on the chancel, is Joseph. You heard him play already this morning, and Sam, who is going to lead us in our hymns today. Um, UU Miami wants to acknowledge that we gather on the traditional lands of the Miccosukee, Tequesta, and Seminole people, and we honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it for generations. This is a land acknowledgement. I say this every Sunday, but again, I emphasize for us, what does it mean? How does it affect how you live your life? How does it make you think about what we need to do to be better stewards of the land, not just that we own, but all the land? UU Miami is a community of you can go to Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, webpage, or if I were there, you could talk to me. But since I'm not there, you can email me at uumiami.org for more information. And if you attended a few services, consider becoming a member, supporting this liberal congregation. I'd be happy to talk with you about membership. Now, if you would join me in our covenant, which you'll see, yep, there it is. We are an open, welcoming community who embodies respect, kindness, compassion, and curiosity. We foster a safe space that invites others to express their authentic, creative selves and unique ideas. We build relationships with one another by listening deeply with understanding and respect. We make a positive difference in our community using our combined time, talents, and treasure. And we are committed to embracing learning, growth, and change. Now, I'm not there to light your chalice. I hope someone will come up and light the chalice. Perhaps Joseph or someone could come up and light our chalice. It is a tradition for us to light a chalice at the beginning of our services. And I'm going to offer some words this morning by Unitarian Universalist Reverend Eric. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you for doing that. Here today, in this place, and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so we can feel. May we feel so we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we have lit light our way. Now, I hope Sam out the children. So, Sam, if you would mind, Joseph will give you a hand and sing the children out to their classrooms. And now, each week, we offer time during the service for joys and sorrows, ones we carry on our hearts by ourselves and bring them to share with one another here in our community. There's a microphone up front by the LGBTQ flag, and you're invited to come up and share a joy or a sorrow. A joy so that we can be with you in your happiness, or sorrow so that we can walk alongside you as you experience your sorrow. As you come up, please say your name so we know who you are. And those of you online, we don't forget you. You can put your joy or sorrow in the chat, and it'll be shared with us.
It's triggering a And if you could think about my brother.
For all those joys and sorrows on your heart, we're with you. Whether you spoke them this morning or they reside in your heart unspoken, they are a blessing to this community, as are you. I have two readings for you this morning. The first is from Gautama Buddha. Believe nothing just because a so-called wise person said it. Believe nothing just because a belief is generally held. Believe nothing just because it is said in an ancient book, or for that matter, a modern book. Believe nothing just because it is said to be of divine origin. Believe nothing just because someone else believes it. Believe only what you yourself test and judge to be true. Second reading this morning is from the Harvard Gazette. It's called Great Promise but Potential Peril by Christina Bazinis. AI presents three major areas of ethical concern for society: privacy and surveillance, bias and discrimination, and perhaps the deepest, most difficult philosophical question of the era: the role of human judgment, said political philosopher Michael Sandel, who teaches a course in moral, social, and political implications of new technologies. Debates about privacy safeguards and about how to overcome bias in algorithmic decision-making in sentencing, parole, and employment practices are now familiar, said Sandel, referring to the conscious and unconscious prejudices of program developers and those who build those that are built into databases and used to train software. But we're not yet wrapped our mind around the hardest question. Can smart machines outthink us, or are certain elements of human judgment indispensable in deciding the most important things in life? Sandel goes on, AI not only replicates human biases, it confers on these biases a kind of scientific credibility. It makes it seem that these prejudices and judgments have objective status. In the world of lending, algorithmic driven decisions have a potential dark side. Karen Mills, senior fellow at the business school and head of the U.S. Small Business Administration from 2009 to 2013, said, as machines learn from data sets they are fed, chances are pretty high they may replicate many of the banking industry's past failures that resulted in systemic, disparate treatment of African Americans and other marginalized consumers. She says, if we're not thoughtful and careful, we're going to end up with redlining again. Sandel goes on, companies have to think seriously about the ethical dimensions of what we're doing. And we, as democratic citizens, have to educate ourselves about tech and its social and ethical implications, not only to decide what the regulation should be, but to decide what role we want big tech and social media to play in our lives. And now it's time for our offering. Those of you who are online, there's a QR code you can see. Just open your camera app, point at it, it'll open up to our donate page, or you just go to uumiami.org website and look for the donate button. And people in the sanctuary can also do that. Just click on the scan there and scan the code, and you can open it up to the donate page. But you also can have someone who's going to walk around the aisle, hopefully, and pass a basket around, and you can donate that way. Today, you have the opportunity to not only donate to our congregation, but also to the Women's Emergency Network, WEN. WEN is a nonprofit organization that assists individuals in exercising their right to reproductive choice. They believe that every individual must have the right to decide if and when to have children. This congregation is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place and the work we do in the world, for we are now the keepers of the dream. And now we move into a time of prayer or meditation. Each of us has our own way to enter that space. So in a moment, I'll invite you to move into that space. Today is going to be a little bit different. It's a meditation I'm going to read to you by Unitarian Universalist Reverend Sean Parker Dennison. He called it a letter from our better angels. And so what I want you to do as you listen to this letter is to think of it as being from your better angel. Now I invite you, relax, might take a deep breath, turn your attention within yourself. And enter that space for prayer or meditation. Dear one, we have received your letter, and we hate to tell you, well, not so much hate, but are a little afraid to say, we cannot grant your requests as stated, but can only remind you of familiar things. First, remember faith, faith in yourself and trust in others. We know it can be terrifying to be vulnerable, but only when you share your softest side will you be able to break through. Next, remember hope. Hope is not an empty fairy tale. It is a true story of all times. All the times human beings like you have found a way to create a new future, though you didn't know how when you started. And of course, remember love. Love that demands you cherish all people, not just yourself and your safety. Love that is not satisfied until every argument ends when a child says, that hurts. There is much to learn and relearn. The world teaches you to be hard, to negotiate and defend, to avoid giving too much and to the wrong people. But here's the thing. There are no wrong people. You are also not wrong. And when you encounter the poor, the broken, the unhoused and unwelcome, you are looking, if you pay attention, at all of us, calling you to answer your own prayers. If you want to change the world, first be sure you are changing yourself. Be tender, be kind, be loving, be all the things you wish for. Be your own better self. It isn't without cost, but it will be free. And now, some music composed by an AI. I was driving around town the other day and I was listening to NPR, as I often do, and I heard an interview by Kyle Chayka. He was talking about his new book, Filter World: How Algorithms Flatten Culture. After being somewhat enlightened and somewhat frightened by the interview, I picked up the book. There it is right there. Now, I want to tell you that I didn't know much other than the word algorithm and artificial intelligence. So I turned to Kyle to give me some sort of a definition that I could at least begin to understand. And here's what it is, at least from his perspective. An algorithm is usually shorthand for algorithmic recommendations, a set of digital mechanisms that absorb piles of user data, put it through sets of equations, and spit out a result deemed most relevant to preset goals. Algorithms dictate the websites we find in Google search results, the stories we see on Facebook feeds, the songs that Spotify plays in a never-ending streams, the people we see as potential matches on dating sites, the movies recommended by Netflix, the personalized feed of videos presented by TikTok, the order of posts on X and Instagram, the folders our emails are automatically sorted into, the ads that follow us around the internet. Algorithmic recommendations shape the vast majority of our experiences in the digital space by considering our previous actions and selecting the pieces of content that will most suit our patterns of behavior. They are supposed to interpret and then show us what we want to see. Algorithms are not autonomous AIs, artificial intelligence. They cannot learn from data. AI is what enables computer systems to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech, translation of languages. Artificial intelligence in social media mostly relies on social and machine learning algorithms to deliver personalized content, making marketing campaigns more effective, and attempts to ensure safer virtual environments for us. You might wonder why I'm preaching about artificial intelligence and algorithms. Well, first, because they impact our everyday lives, our choices, the lives and choices of all the people we come in contact with. And second, because as Unitarian Universalists and as citizens of this country, we should consider, reflect on, and understand those things that impact us in our entire culture. I want to reread you that part of that reading from Buddha that I read earlier. Believe nothing just because a so-called wise person said it. Believe nothing just because a belief is generally held. Believe nothing just because it is in an ancient book. Believe nothing just because it is said to be of divine origin. Believe nothing just because someone else believes it. Believe only what you yourself test and judge to be true. So how do we figure out what's true when AIs have gotten so sophisticated, so prevalent? How can we be sure that what we see and read hasn't been manipulated to show us some specific thing, to produce a specific reaction in us? In other words, how can we truly trust any information when almost all information has been filtered through an algorithm? AI and algorithms are not wise, are not divine in origin. They are flawed as each human being is. And having been designed by humans who function with their own biases AI and algorithms in many cases are even more flawed, accentuating our very human flaws. AIs and algorithms have agendas, the agendas of their creators and those who use them for their benefit. For-profit corporations and social media companies. Many algorithms have been programmed to create desire in us. Say you're looking for a hose, a garden hose, you want to replace it or whatever. You order one online. Now suddenly you're inundated with unending ads for garden hoses. And maybe gradually ads for garden tools start popping up as you're scrolling through your social media. Maybe a few days later, you notice ads for garden furniture are popping up, all because an algorithm was designed to notice what you're purchasing. In an AI, it kept feeding back more and more of the same, but bigger, better, and oh, so tempting. Or what about the AI so many of us use that we welcomed into our own homes? Alexa, Google. How many of you had a conversation about some product, we'll say a chair, and then the next day you suddenly begin seeing ads for chairs on your social media? Martha and I have seen this. So I may sound like I'm against AI and algorithms, that they're somehow bad or evil. I'm not. I don't really think that. I think computer programs are just computer programs. They can be used for good or bad, depending on their programmers. Dr. Joseph Nathan, co-founder and president and chief officer of Foresight Robotics, wrote in Forbes magazine that AI has the power to transform healthcare and elevate life-changing medical treatment. For instance, AI-based systems can be fed recordings of thousands of surgeries in seconds and can remember the first procedure they observed with equal precision to the last. From educating physicians on different methodologies to centralizing access for surgeons in developing regions of the world, AI can reshape the way physicians learn, practice, and perfect their surgical skills. And not only that, not only helping medicine, but I don't know about you, but I'm not grumbling about the AI I'm using when I use MapQuest or Google Maps to drive to an unfamiliar place. I'm happy just to have a map to follow that tells me where to go. So AI is not all bad, algorithms are not all bad, but I do think we need to be careful consumers of the information that's presented to us. Believe only what you yourself test and judge to be true. I have to say, I don't have enough information about algorithms and AIs and how they work. I'm a minister. I guess I haven't done enough research, but it gives me great pause in how they interpret all the data about me. And I don't even know what they're doing or how they're doing it. Do you? So, my friends, I ask you to think for a moment about what algorithms do. They gather data on a person based on their search history, their reading history, their buying history, their song choices over time, and other data, where you've traveled or eaten out, the movies or theaters you've gone to, movie theaters and other theaters you've gone to. Now algorithmics take that information and they give it to AIs to predict what news stories might be of interest for all of us every day. Now, while that seems well and good, what do you think of the consequences of creating such a cyber echo chamber might be? You know, these algorithms are designed and maintained by engineers of monopolistic tech companies and running on data that we users continuously provide by logging in each day. The technology is both constructed by us, by our choices, and dominates us, manipulating our perceptions and attention. Though this AI domination and algorithmic manipulation, you know what it does? It flattens our culture. Kyle Chayka, I mentioned earlier, says filter world is my word for the vast, interlocking, and yet diffuse network of algorithms that influence our everyday lives, which has a particular dramatic impact on culture and the way it's distributed and consumed. Filter world has also changed politics, education, and interpersonal relationships, among other facets of society. My focus, he says, is on culture. Among algorithmic recommendations, they dictate genres of culture by rewarding particular tropes with promotion in feeds based on what immediately attracts the most attention. He goes on, filter world culture is ultimately homogeneous, marked by a pervasive sense of sameness, even when its artifacts aren't literally the same. It perpetuates itself to the point of boredom. The sameness feels inescapable, alienating even as it is marked as desirable. Surveillance capitalism, as scholar Shoshana Zuboff has labeled it, is how tech companies monetize the constant absorption of personal data, an intensification of the attention economy. And yet, for all that data, algorithmic feeds sometimes misunderstand us, connecting us with the wrong people or recommending the wrong kinds of content, encouraging habits that we don't want. The network of algorithms makes so many decisions for us, and yet we have little way of talking back to it or changing how it works. This imbalance induces a state of passivity. We consume what the feeds recommend to us without engaging too deeply in the material. We also adapt the way we present ourselves online to its incentives. We write tweets, post on Facebook, and take Instagram photos in order to grab attention, attract likes or clicks, which drive revenue to the tech companies. Scientific studies have shown that those likes trigger rushes of dopamine to our brains, meaning that chasing them and complying with the feed is addictive. On the other side of our algorithmic anxiety is a state of numbness. The dopamine rushes become inadequate, and the noise and speed of the feeds overwhelming. Our natural reaction is to seek out culture that embraces nothingness, that blankets and soothes rather than challenges or surprises. So, as powerful artwork is meant to do, our capacity to be moved or even interested and curious is depleted. In place of the human gatekeepers and curators of culture, the editors and DJs, we now have a set of algorithmic gatekeepers. The outcome of such algorithmic gatekeeping is the pervasive flattening that has been happening across our culture. By flatness, I mean homogenization, but also reduction to simplicity. The least ambiguous, least disruptive, perhaps least meaningful pieces of our culture are promoted the most. Flatness is the lowest common denominator, an averageness that has never been the marker of humanity's proudest cultural creations. My friends, in such flattening of our culture, existing outside the norm, however we determine outside of the norm being outside of what is considered normal, it becomes an act of defiance. Having ideas or beliefs or gender or sexuality or religion or race or whatever is perceived as outside the mob's norm results in abuse, rejection, isolation, being treated as less than, legally and socially. Creativity and innovation are squashed. I recall a scene, I think it was from Ray Bradbury's 451 movie released in 1966. It made an impression on me. There were two dancers that were being put on this television station, and they were weighted down by this restrictive clothing so that their movement was curtailed. During the dance, they took off the restrictive clothing and danced beautifully. Then they were arrested for being different than average. Metaphorically, I can see this already happening in our country, even in Florida. Did some of you ever watch The Orville? It's a Star Trek homage created by Seth MacFarlane. In one episode called Majority Rule, the crew finds this world where everyone is controlled by social media. Decisions, large and small, are based on likes and dislikes. Every citizen wears a button like you see on the screen that displays the likes and dislikes that a person has accumulated in their life. And there's a running feed on global media that shows the likes and dislikes on certain particular social issues. Every decision is based on mob mentality and popularity. Does that sound chillingly familiar? A world where who is arrested and charged, given legal consequences, not based on rule of law, but on public opinion. Where you can be refused service at a business if you have too many dislikes. Would you function in an algorithmic culture, needing to adapt the way you present yourself, what you decide, how you act, and make decisions based on other people's reaction to you? TikTok? Anyone? My message in all this is that we need to be more educated and aware of how AIs and algorithms work. Part of this education is awareness of how we are being manipulated by AI and algorithms, and how it is just opening our brains to the information, and we keep swallowing without ever chewing what we're taking in. I urge you to go deeper. Search more than the superficial when digesting information. Don't rely on the first options available to a search in a search query. Take your time. Don't swallow what you're being fed. Chew it. Tussle with it. Stop and consider it. Decide whether you want to digest it or spit it out. Be yourself, fully, uniquely, and authentically. There's a lot you're going to be exposed to. So go forth, my friends, into the virtual and real world with bravery in your actions, boldness in your words, and love in your hearts for the world. The real world that you can touch and taste and feel on your skin. The real world needs us to be more than what an AI or its algorithm say we are. Amen.
Our closing hymn this morning will be number 1008. This is in the white blue book. This is When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. If you'll stand and sing with me.
Trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for giving me the grace to be able to do this grand experiment, and thank Jessica and Derek for helping me be there with you today. Um, I'm, I'm happy it all worked out, and I wish I could be there with you in person and feel your presence. I also want to thank all the people that make church happen, our church, our congregation function, the leaders, and board members, committees, our staff, business manager, childcare workers, yoga instructors, communications director, Kat, our new sexton. I mean, everybody who makes this church function. Joseph, Sam for leading us in hymns today. Thank you all so much. Please watch our for your email newsletter and visit our website for upcoming programming. There's lunch today. I wish I was there and have lunch, but it's a $5 donation, and I'm not sure who's doing lunch, but whoever they are, tell them thank you. If it's your first time here, don't pay for lunch, just eat. We want you to come and get to know us. We want to get to know you. After lunch, my lovely wife Martha will be leading a drum circle. I think she's moving it to the Emerson room, but I'm not there, so she'll have to tell you where she's drumming today. Next week, I'm going to preach on, what if you don't want to transform, And after that, we're going to have a presentation on our World Religion series on what the Baha'i believe. couple of other announcements real quickly. On Sunday, April 14th, there will not be a service in the sanctuary. Instead, all of you, family, friends, are invited to live out your values by attending Miami Pride. It's so important that we're there this year. We'll be marching with Safe Schools, the organization we partner with to create a safe space for LGBTQ youth. Please wear your yellow UU Miami t-shirts, on the side of love. We'll bring our Miami banner. If you don't want to march, that's perfectly fine. Just bring a chair and watch the parade. Again, our presence is most important this year. We're going to do some carpooling. So there's a sign-up list at the back of the sanctuary, and there's a sign-up list in your newsletter. Also, the Social Justice Committee of UU Miami is a member of PACT, and there are two big events coming up. The yearly PACT rally and the Nehemiah Action. The PACT rally, and you'll handout as a handout at the back of the church, is coming up. It's Monday and Tuesday for the north part of town and the south part of town. And then the big one that we really have to get as many people to as we possibly can is the yearly Nehemiah Action. If you don't remember much about it, this is where we try to get as many people together to confront our city officials and county officials on issues that we want to see changed in the Miami-Dade area. And we need as many people there as we can as we tell them what we want. So please, if you can, try to be there. So I'm going to end the service now with a few words by Unitarian Universalist Reverend Joseph M. Cherry. If you have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our own discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others while we're there. May we be a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. So my friends, before you leave, before you go have lunch, I invite you to stand up and greet one another. Get to know everybody. Go off to lunch talking about the service or getting to know each other. We're building a community here. And even though I'm not there, Joseph, will you play a little bit as we end? Take care, everyone.